Let's see here. Kelly, husband treated with remdesivir and dexamethasone for COVID. CRP was initially 12, went down to 2. What to do to help him to increase his O2 sats? I mean, that's a really tough question. I mean, I don't know much more. Is your husband still in the hospital? Is he in a hospital bed? Is he capable of getting up, moving about, or is he still kind of incapacitated with COVID? You know, I would say, you know, just very simply, you can support him nutritionally. I mean, you know, again, what do you look at doing? If you're just going to do some general support, I would look at his vitamin D levels. Ask his doctor in the hospital to measure his vitamin D, and if they're too low, get him up. Make sure you're checking him, because a lot of times with any kind of infection, what can happen is you can develop what's called inflammatory anemia, meaning the inflammation of the illness creates an anemia. And so what that does is it reduces your body's ability to carry oxygen. And so your O2 sats will be low because you actually have anemia. So it's not a bad idea to ask your doctors there to also check his iron and his B vitamins to make sure there's not an anemia that's occurring, that's creating an issue for him and in keeping his oxygen low. Let's see here. How much vitamin C and D3 should a 160-pound man take? I think I answered that. So 160, you know, 5 grams of C a day, you're pretty safe. As far as D is concerned, anywhere from 2,000 to 10,000, depending on whether or not your D levels are low. And as far as iodine and selenium are concerned, iodine, it depends on whether or not you're deficient in it. So, I mean, if you're deficient in iodine, you know, anywhere from 12.5 all the way up to 50 milligrams a day of iodine, it's a pretty strong dose for an adult male. But again, I wouldn't recommend that if you're not deficient in it. And let's see. Oh, thanks, Michelle. Michelle says you have the best videos, so helpful for the common person that needs some background but is not a doctor. I try to do that. Thanks for being appreciative of that, Michelle. I do my best. Is there benefit to getting the flu vaccine, and how about for kids? You know, my opinion on the flu shot is I'm not a big fan of it. I mean, I personally don't get one. Look, the flu, influenza, you've got, first of all, you can never predict what's actually going to be out there that year. So when they make the vaccine itself, it doesn't, you know, it's not a guarantee that you're going to get any potential benefit from it. And, you know, there's also adjuvants in the flu shot that can be, you know, have a negative impact on health overall. So some of those adjuvants in flu shots, not healthy for people as a general rule of thumb. My philosophy is just simply this, you know, you can't get healthy injecting your body with things. If you keep your body healthy, if you keep your immune system strong, it should protect you from influenza. You don't, in my opinion, you don't need more than that. We didn't have flu shots years ago. And, you know, look, we've always had flu deaths and influenza. And that's not to say that it can't be a dangerous disease for certain people, but I'm just not a big fan. Let's see here. Do people with autoimmune disease, even those who do not take medication, have weak immune systems? No, you have immune systems that are being distracted. And so with autoimmunity, it's not that your immune system is necessarily too strong. It's that your immune system is overreacting, and it's probably overreacting because you're overexposing it to so many different toxins. That's generally the key. Remember, there's 4 triggers for autoimmune disease. Food is a trigger, particularly food allergy or food sensitivity. Chemical exposures are a trigger. So the chemicals can be medications. The chemicals can be, you know, environmental chemicals like pesticides, etc. And then we have a third trigger for autoimmune disease, which is nutritional deficiency, right? So lack of nutrients, which is what we've been talking about tonight. Nutrients are so important for the immune system to properly regulate itself and function. And then the fourth trigger for autoimmunity is infectious microorganisms. So, you know, picking up or experiencing an infection can also be a trigger for autoimmunity. We've got several, you know, an example is the autoimmune rheumatoid arthritis from Lyme. Lyme being a type of bacterial infection that can be a trigger for autoimmune arthritis. Let's see. I was recently diagnosed with osteoporosis. What are the best supplements? Little off topic, but good supplements to take if you were diagnosed with osteoporosis. Look, a lot of doctors will push you to calcium. Actually, one time I had an OB-GYN. We shared the same patient. The OB-GYN recommended that my patient take Tums with calcium to get their calcium. Now, if you know anything about Tums is an antacid, and antacids block the absorption of calcium. So this OB-GYN, who knew nothing about nutrition, was saying take Tums with calcium to get your calcium from that particular over-the-counter product. And anyway, it's a bad idea. But my point is, a lot of doctors recommend calcium as if calcium is going to fix the world's osteoporotic problems. The number one thing you can do with osteoporosis is not take more supplements. The number one thing that you can do is exercise. Bone grows based on pressure, external force. And if you apply external force to your bone through exercise, you're going to vastly increase its density. As far as which supplements are best, there are a number of different nutrients that are necessary for bone growth. Calcium is one of them, but so is vitamin D, and so is vitamin C, and zinc, and copper, and manganese, and boron, and vanadium. So your best bet is to just do a really strong, high-quality multivitamin, multi-mineral supplement, something like Ultra Nutrients. If you want to check that out, you can. We could throw a link up for you. But that's generic, right? The best thing that you can do with osteoporosis is get tested. Find out what nutrient deficiencies you have so that you're not just shooting in the dark at taking a bunch of excessive calcium you may not need. Do cortisol and steroids suppress the immune system? Yes, they do, especially when taken long-term over higher doses over long periods of time. Let's see, does low white blood count have anything to do with celiac disease? Claire is asking. Yeah, it does, Claire. It has to do with celiac disease, or can. A lot of celiacs have low white counts upon diagnosis. There are other reasons you can have a low white count. Celiac is not the only reason why. And you can actually have a high white count when you have celiac disease as well. So there's kind of a paradoxical back and forth that it can be. But yes, because white blood cells are critical for immune function, if you have celiac and you're still getting gluten exposure, you're putting your immune system at huge risk. How many hours should one sleep, or how many hours of sleep should one get after the age of 45? You're shooting, Elizabeth, you're shooting for 8 hours. I mean, ideally. I mean, some people as you get older require less sleep. So you might go to bed at 9 o'clock, and you might find yourself waking up at 4 or 4:30. And some people get frustrated with that. They think they should sleep longer. But as the body ages, there's studies that show that you absolutely can get by with less sleep and still do very well and still maintain good health. It's that 10 to 2 window that's the most important. Keep scrolling down that left-hand side. And on the right, too. So vitamin D, what do I mean by emulsified? Barbara's asking. So emulsified means that the vitamin D itself is, so understand vitamin D is a fat, and if you take it in its fat form and it's not emulsified, if you don't have a gallbladder, if you have a poor functioning liver, or if you have fat malabsorption problems, you're not going to absorb the vitamin D from that supplement as effectively. So in an emulsified form, it's basically converted into a water-soluble micelle, or it's micellized, or it's in a water-soluble droplet, so that when you take it, it can go right in. It doesn't have to depend on whether or not your liver or your gallbladder is going to do its job today. It goes right in. So emulsified. The formulas will say if it's emulsified or if it's in the right form. You're going to read that, because any supplement that is going to produce vitamin D that way, that's kind of a bragging right for any supplement manufacturer. And if you're looking for a really high quality emulsified form, check out gluten-free D3. You can check that out on Gluten Free Society. Can one recover from, this is an off-topic question, but since I started reading it, I'm going to finish it. So can one recover from multiple statin damage? Scroll down just a little bit on that left side. Where can you find a doctor in the area with an understanding of oversensitivity to prescription meds? That's a good question, Linda. Can one recover from statin damage? Yes, depending on the extent of the damage. Statins, there have been research studies, and there have been a number of case reports where in some people statins create neuropathy and could create severe myopathy or muscular damage. And getting off of them is actually the antidote, so to speak. So if your doctor's got you on a statin and you've suffered from damage, the first step is to discuss that with your doc and make sure you find the right solution there and getting off of it. But as far as finding a doctor who understands those things, I mean, most doctors should understand it. I can't speak for them all. You have to interview them, right? You got to interview different docs. You've got to ask your friends, your relatives, your neighbors, and try to find one that's not just kind of, hey, take the drug or get out of my office. That's not doctoring. That's I don't know, that's like a technician. A technician can be trained to follow a flow chart, and that's what a lot of doctors unfortunately today do. And many of them are confined by constraints when they work in, when they work in a hospital type system where the standard of care is created by people in an office who don't actually doctor. It's just a sad world that we live in today medically. Is a vitamin D test in the blood or intracellular? So for vitamin D, Debbie, it's 25-OHD is the name of the test. 25-dihydroxyvitamin D is the name, and it's in the blood, not in the cell. That actually is a really solid way to look at your vitamin D status. Let's see. I don't understand your question, Barbara. Will my multi-nutrient vitamin cover a lot of this? It'll cover a lot of these things in smaller amounts, but it won't cover them in larger amounts. So if you're really trying to, go in strong for your immune system, a multivitamin isn't going to cover all those bases in terms of strong immune support. How can I regain my taste and smell sense after COVID recovery? One of the reasons it happens is coronaviruses, not just COVID, but coronaviruses in general sequester zinc. They use up a lot of the zinc, and zinc is critical for taste and smell. And so that's why people lose it. Now, we didn't talk about it, but, when we're looking at recovery, zinc can play an important role. I mean, if you've lost your taste and smell and you've recovered and you're just trying to get it back, zinc, 50 milligrams a day, and some as high as 100 milligrams a day, but mixing that with a compound called quercetin. Quercetin's a plant-based bioflavonoid. And what it does is it opens the cells so that zinc can get in. It's called a zinc ionophore, is what that's called. So if you imagine on the surface of a cell, you got your DNA in the middle and this is your cell membrane on the outside. You have these little channels in the cell wall called ionophores. And quercetin helps to open these up so that zinc can get into the cell, right? So quercetin enhances zinc absorption by the cell. And so if you've lost your taste and smell, a good quality quercetin, we have something gluten-free called Ultra Q. The Q stands for quercetin, and then we have zinc, and again, 50 milligrams a day. Both of those are real safe amounts if you wanted to give that a go for several weeks to see if that didn't give you some improvements coming back. But we've seen a lot of that this year, obviously. A lot of loss of taste and smell, and that combination tends to work best at trying to recoup it. Let's see here. Scroll up just a little on the left for me. Oh, too far. Too far again. How can I, okay, I answered that one. So, okay, yeah, you were fine. I'm sorry, I just missed it. So I'm not sure what you mean, Celinda, but will this help with radiation proctitis? Will what help with radiation proctitis? If you've got radiation inflammation or swelling induced, then really, ideally, you need a full workup. You don't want to mess around with that because radiation can do a lot of damage to your tissues, and you don't want to just throw a little vitamin C at it or a little zinc at it. You need to get a full workup nutritionally done. If you get the jab this year, can these supplements help before and after to alleviate any issues that may occur? Honestly, Sharon, we don't know. We don't have enough information. Anybody that's out there that's saying you got to do this if you're going to get the jab, because if you do this, you're going to support yourself from having less side effects. They're talking out of their rear end. They really don't know. None of us do. Theoretically, we could hypothesize about some things, and so if you want some hypotheses, I can certainly. I've got lots of those. But the best thing that you can do, so if you're taking the vaccine or if you're going to get the vaccine, is everything we talked about tonight. Supporting your immune system function, right? Supporting your body to be healthy. If you're worried about the potential for those side effects. I mean, there are some things that I'm doing right now, more of the opposite. It's just to protect myself. And the biggest thing that, again, hypothesize, the biggest thing I'm doing right now is NAC. Critical. And this is because it helps to support and build your mucosal secretions. I want my mucosal secretions working really, really well right now because You've got a lot of people that are vaccinated that shed. They're shedding, and that we know that this thing can shed. And I don't want any of that stuff in me. So I'm just supporting myself right now by taking NAC in that way. And so, that's still a hypothesis, though. We don't have any data or any research that says do this to protect yourself from that. We don't know. So I just don't want to tell you, hey, go buy a bunch of stuff and it's not really fruitful or helpful for you. So Casey's asking, what about children following the same supplement protocol? Yeah, but also depending on how big they are and the dose adjustments. I mean, there are dose changes with children. You don't need to give kids quite as much as a full-grown adult. So for those on a daily allergy pill, what would you suggest instead? We have a product that we use to support people through seasonal allergies and things of that nature. It's called HistAssist, and it's a mixture of quercetin and vitamin C and bromelain and N-acetylcysteine. So it's a mixture of different things that help to stabilize the cells, the mast cells that release histamine and cause a lot of those symptoms around allergy time. Okay, keep going down. If you've had half of your thyroid removed, do you still need iodine? Possibly. Get your iodine checked. If you've had half your gland removed, you may still need it. It's possible you had half of it removed because you needed it. I mean, you can develop a goiter because of low thyroid, and a lot of doctors, because they're not trained to look at iodine levels, they sometimes say, your thyroid's enlarged, let's remove it. Not saying that's what's happened to you, but I've seen that happen to a number of people over the years. Let's see here. Any truth that liposomal vitamin C is better than regular vitamin C? No, not if you're gluten sensitive. Most liposomal formulas contain corn, and so I don't really recommend those because of that reason. As far as absorption, yeah, there's evidence that show that they can absorb quite effectively, but not at the risk of exposing yourself to corn. Let's see, well, that's a deep question there. My 88-year-old mother had good kidney function until her last blood test. She was on 5,000 units of D for the past 5 months because she was at 22. She's now up to 49. But her kidney function is down now. Her kidney function is not down because of the vitamin D. Vitamin D at 5,000 units a day doesn't reduce kidney function. I've never seen that be the case in 21 years of practice. And 5,000 is really not a very high dose. I mean, it's too complex of a question, unfortunately, Esther. I wish I could give you a better answer, but I just don't know enough about your 88-year-old mother. I mean, there's probably a whole lot of other factors involved in that and her kidney function, and probably vitamin D is not the culprit. There may be something else. Now, that being said, even though I said I haven't really seen that be the case, you can always try to discontinue the vitamin D and see if her kidney function improves. But that's a conversation really that needs to happen between her and her doctor. Dolly is asking about Virid. Can you tell us more about your supplement called Virid? Is it good to take as an immune preventative during flu season? Yeah, so that's one I recommend. It's definitely a preventative. So, the question is about Virid. Virid has a mixture of different things, but it has vitamin C, it has vitamin A, it has elderberry, it has andrographis, it has L-lysine, it has zinc. So it's basically, it's a comprehensive formula to help support your immune system, before cold and flu season. And you can take it prophylactically, just like, take it to help, again, support your immune system. And that's, with that one, it's 2 a day. Now, if you were to get sick and you wanted to take it more aggressively, you certainly could. I mean, and, in the clinic, we use it with people. We'll give them anywhere between 6 and 8 a day, if they're feeling under the weather, to support their immune system's recovery. But 2 a day is what I would encourage anyone who's just using that as kind of an immune booster or an immune support supplement for cold and flu season. Do benign thyroid nodules mean Graves' or Hashimoto's, despite normal thyroid results according to Western doctors? Probably neither. I mean, if you've got normal results, depending on whether you have normal antibody results, I mean, we can get into that at another time, but Kristen, you may go back and watch I did an entire hour-and-a-half class on thyroid. talked about a lot of that, but you can have nodules for lots of different reasons. You don't have to necessarily have an autoimmune thyroid process. You can have nodules over a vitamin deficiency. You can, I mean, for example, you can have a nodule over an iodine deficiency. You could have a nodule. I've seen cases of nodules over selenium deficiency. So, you know, again, it doesn't have to be an autoimmune type scenario. It could be a nutritional scenario. Okay, let's keep going down on both sides. So Ricky says, why is the weekly video through Facebook always out of sync with Dr. Osborne's voice? Facebook's giving us tons of problems right now. We have no control over that. I mean, I have very expensive high-tech equipment, and we try to deliver a great show for you guys. It's really a Facebook issue. It's an interface issue. They've been censoring us. They've recently shut down one of my accounts for no reason. I think it's just my personal opinion is that they're just going aggressively after folks like me, and they're trying to make it hard for our followers to, you know, to be able to listen with clarity. If you don't like the interface on Facebook, you're welcome to join us on YouTube. If you don't know how to do that, you just go check out Dr. Osborne on YouTube. It's pretty simple to do, but our show there, we don't have any streaming issues or any problems with voice sync there. So thanks for that feedback though, but yeah, it's definitely a Facebook issue. So Jennifer says corn is gluten-free, probably because of what I said about liposomal vitamin C. She says, what's wrong with corn other than staying away from GMO? So I would just encourage you, Jennifer, to read No Grain, No Pain. Corn is not gluten-free. That's one of the biggest problems in the gluten-free diet and people that follow a gluten-free diet. And, you know, 92% of those that go on a gluten-free diet actually fail to ever achieve inflammation recovery. Because one of the big reasons is because they continue to use corn and other grains. So if you're not aware of that, I would encourage you, you can go over to glutenfreesociety.org and just type in corn gluten in the search box, and you'll pull up all kinds of research studies on exactly what I'm talking about. It doesn't cost you anything, or you can go read No Grain, No Pain, my book. It's published in multiple languages. You can pick it up in a library, or you can buy it from Barnes & Noble or Amazon or any other major book retailer. Let's see here. Medications are voluntary. Most people don't realize this. Best thing we can do. Yeah, okay, high five to that. I agree with that. I like that. So Mormon said, I lost my taste and smell. My Ultra Q came in the mail 2 hours after taking it. My taste and smell came back. Another high five. That is so awesome to hear that worked that well and that quickly for you. Okay, I think it's dinner time. You guys hungry? I'm hungry. I'm going to go home and eat. Thanks for spending Monday night with me. Look, if you're new to the show and you've not been here and this is new to you, make sure you come over and visit me at glutenfreesociety.org and just subscribe to our newsletter. If you do that, I won't spam you. I'm not going to send you a bunch of junk. I'm just going to send you high quality information like what you heard tonight. It's absolutely free to subscribe. And if you don't like us, you can go away and we don't pester you or spam you. But if you want to learn more, if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty about nutrition, about gluten sensitivity, about eating food that's good for you, about diet and lifestyle and how powerful that can be to reverse disease, then come visit me at glutenfreesociety.org. Subscribe to our newsletter. For those of you struggling with the Facebook interface, come over and when you subscribe, we'll send you links to our YouTube feed where you can start watching it. And just so you all know, we're working on an interface where you can watch directly from Gluten Free Society, and that's the direction that we're going to be heading in here in the very near future, because we just don't like the censorship that we've seen in this past year. We're pretty upset. You should be upset by it as well. More and more doctors like myself are under fire and under attack. And so we're trying to do as much as we can to protect you from that censorship. But the only way we can do that is if you come to visit us. If we try to reach you through these forums, a lot of our material gets censored before it ever even gets shown. So again, come visit me at glutenfreesociety.org if you don't want to be censored. I hope you have a fantastic week. We'll see you next Monday for another episode of Pick Dr. Osborne's Brain. And last thing, we're relaunching the Glutenology Masterclass. So if you didn't take it, it's absolutely free. You can check that out. We'll throw that link up in the feed for you as well. But make sure you go sign up. That's going to go live on September 15th. So if you didn't get the opportunity to watch it in the first go round, We've enhanced it, made it better, added several hours of content, especially a bonus module on leaky gut that you can get access to. So didn't want to forget to announce that, but we'll put a link up in the feed for you where you can register to that event for absolute free. Take care, and we'll see you next Monday night for another episode of Pick Dr. Osborne's Brain. Hey, if you've got a functional medicine or health question that you'd like me to answer for you, make sure you send me an email, glutenology@gmail.com, and we'll do our best to create a video answer just for you. Have a great day.